Welcome to Devotionary, where we make the Bible accessible and applicable. If I were able to ask you if you believe God to be powerful, you would likely respond with an enthusiastic yes. But the truth is, there have been plenty of times in your life when you doubted the power of God, and more than likely, your assessment was based on your circumstances. When things take a turn for the worse, we tend to doubt God's power or question His love. But God would have us remember that His love never wavers and His power never diminishes. And that's the message He tries to convey to the people of Judah as recorded in Isaiah chapter 51, verses 1 through 15. In these verses, God addresses a small remnant of His faithful followers. In all of Judah, there was only a handful of those who pursued righteousness and remained true to God. And God wanted them to know that they could trust Him, in spite of all that was going on around them. He knew that they were beginning to have their doubts. They were looking around and starting to question whether God was going to come through for them. And God wanted them to know that His righteousness was drawing near. They could count on it. And it may not be in their lifetime, but they could rest in the knowledge that God never abandons His own. Three times in the first 8 verses, God calls on His people to hear what He has to say, but He specifically addresses the small remnant made up of those who remained faithful to Him, those who still knew and pursued righteousness. Listen to me, you who pursue righteousness, you who seek the Lord. Isaiah 51, verse 1. Give attention to me, my people, and give ear to me, my nation. Isaiah 51, verse 4. Listen to me, you who know righteousness, the people in whose heart is my law. Isaiah 51, verse 7. And God explains why they should listen to Him. First of all, He was the one who had made them. He had called one man, Abraham, and from him created a great nation. And then God blessed them, providing them with Zion, the mountain on which Jerusalem sat and from which David had reigned. Secondly, they should listen to Him because He was the Creator God, the Maker of all things. He was powerful and fully capable of sending His salvation to rescue them. And that same power He used to create the universe would be used to destroy all that He had made. It would be part of His redemptive plan for creation. Finally, God explains that they should listen to what He had to say because He was not yet done. They had no reason to fear man because God was on their side, and He had an infallible plan of salvation already in place. He assures them, "My righteousness will last forever." Isaiah 51, verse 8. That small but faithful remnant of those who still believed in and waited on God were being encouraged to keep their eyes focused on God. Even though things looked bleak and the prospects for Judah were anything but good, God was faithful. They were His chosen people, and He had promised to protect and provide for them. But He had also promised to punish them if they refused to obey Him. They were going to suffer at the hands of the Babylonians, but God would restore them. He would return them to the land, and while they would be small in number, He would once again bless them and multiply them, all in keeping with His promise to Abraham. Their greatest danger would not be the Babylonians, but their tendency to look at their temporary circumstances and draw the wrong conclusions. Once they found themselves in captivity in Babylon, even the faithful would be tempted to question God's covenant promises. But God tells them to see things from His perspective. Lift up your eyes to the heavens and look at the earth beneath. For the heavens vanish like smoke, the earth will wear out like a garment, and they who dwell in it will die in like manner. Isaiah 51, verse 6. The Apostle Peter warned of this coming day. But the day of the Lord will come as unexpectedly as a thief. Then the heavens will pass away with a terrible noise, and the very elements themselves will disappear in fire, and the earth and everything on it will be found to deserve judgment. Since everything around us is going to be destroyed like this, what holy and godly lives you should live, looking forward to the day of God and hurrying it along. On that day He will set the heavens on fire, and the elements will melt away in the flames. But we are looking forward to the new heavens and new earth He has promised, a world filled with God's righteousness. 2 Peter 3, verses 10 through 13. Isaiah prophesied about this coming day of judgment. He described the future destruction of the earth and heavens in chapter 24. The earth mourns and dries up, and the land wastes away and withers. Even the greatest people on earth waste away. The earth suffers for the sins of its people, for they have twisted God's instructions, violated His laws, and broken His everlasting covenant. Therefore a curse consumes the earth. Its people must pay the price for their sin. Isaiah 24, verses 4 through 6. Then the glory of the moon will wane, and the brightness of the sun will fade. Isaiah 24, verse 23. The things we can see with our eyes are temporary in nature. They are not meant to last. Even our circumstances are fluid, constantly changing from the pleasant to the painful, from moments of joy to seasons of sorrow. But God is eternal, and so is His plan for His people. That's why they were to focus their attention on Him and not on their immediate surroundings and circumstances. And again, Isaiah has already addressed this issue with the people of Judah. Shout that people are like the grass. Their beauty fades as quickly as the flowers in a field. The grass withers and the flowers fade beneath the breath of the Lord. And so it is with people. The grass withers and the flowers fade, but the word of our God stands forever. Isaiah 40, verses 6 through 8. But verse 9 reveals that even the faithful remnant were wondering if God had fallen asleep at the wheel. They were busy looking at their circumstances and questioning whether God had dozed off. So they called on Him to wake up. Wake up, O Lord. Clothe yourself with strength. Flex your mighty right arm. Rouse yourself as in the days of old when you slew Egypt, the dragon of the Nile. Isaiah 51, verse 9. These righteous ones still believed God could save them. Their faith, while small, was focused on the right thing, God Almighty. They weren't calling on the Assyrians or Egypt to be their saviors. In fact, they remind God of when He defeated the armies of Pharaoh at the Red Sea. They knew that God could save, and they expressed their confidence in His saving power. Those who have been ransomed by the Lord will return. They will enter Jerusalem singing, crowned with everlasting joy. Sorrow and mourning will disappear, and they will be filled with joy and gladness. Isaiah 51, verse 11. This is an amazing expression of faith in the midst of uncertainty and overwhelming signs of pending doom. Their words convey their belief in the faithfulness of God and His power to deliver, no matter how bad the circumstances may appear. Yet God seems to know that they still harbored doubts. He was aware that their bold-sounding words of faith were accompanied by unexpressed thoughts of fear. They were wrestling with questions about what was going to happen when the Babylonians showed up on the scene in overwhelming strength and numbers. So God asked them, "So why are you afraid of mere humans, who wither like the grass and disappear?" Isaiah 51, verse 12. Will you remain in constant dread of human oppressors? Will you continue to fear the anger of your enemies? Isaiah 51, verse 13. Faith and fear make lousy playmates. They don't do well together. Fear is horizontally focused and fixated on the temporal, while faith is vertically focused and centered on the eternal. As the author of Hebrews put it, now faith is the assurance of things hoped for, the conviction of things not seen. Hebrews 11, verse 1. And the Apostle Paul put the same thought in his own words. So we don't look at the troubles we can see now. Rather, we fix our gaze on things that cannot be seen. For the things we see now will soon be gone, but the things we cannot see will last forever. 2 Corinthians 4, verse 18. God was revealing to the faithful remnant in Judah that He had plans for them that they could not see. They were blind to the salvation strategy He had in place for them. And while they might find themselves oblivious to His plans, they could rely upon His character. He was their God, the Lord of heaven's armies. For I am the Lord your God, who stirs up the sea, causing its waves to roar. My name is the Lord of heaven's armies. Isaiah 51, verse 15. The seeming reality of our circumstances is nothing when compared to the unquestionable actuality of God's matchless power and unwavering faithfulness.